Hello, welcome to Product for Product. It's Matt and Moshe here again, and today we're talking about general product management information. We're joined by a special guest, Irit Levi. Irit is a founder and a automation enthusiast, a product management tool enthusiast, and she's got a lot of helpful information regarding these tools and how they can make your job better. So Irit, without further ado, thank you for coming to the show, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, Irit.
Hi, I'm Moshe. Exciting. Can we do this in Hebrew? No, okay.
I don't know what Matt is going to understand, but we can try.
I'll translate after the show.
Shalom, Irit.
Shalom, Moshe.
So can you introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, how did you get here?
So I started my business a year ago. I was working as a product owner in a startup. It was my dream job. I loved it. I was having a great time. And then about a year before I left, the fit just wasn't right. So February 12th of 2020, I gave notice. March 12th was my last day. March 15th, the world stopped.
Oh my God. Wow.
and then it's a great story. And then I was like, I don't want to look for a job now. There's no way I'm going to find a job. And my dream was to open a business. And we were talking about it at home, but it was never the right time. And then my husband just said, okay, fine, go for it. April 1st was my first day, and I've never looked back. I love anything that has to do with project management, automations, processes, you name it.
So first of all, what is the name of your company?
Day by Day. That's actually a translation from Hebrew. Day by Day is from, like in the Bible, when people were picking up the food, the manna from the heavens. It was called Dvar Yom B'Yomo. They would pick it up one day at a time. So day by day, how the name came about. And
that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's the first time I'm telling the story. But but it's so simple because we start step by step. We do it day by day. Any business or product or whatever, it's like a daily process. You have to put in the work every day in small steps.
Yes. What you do, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is you help organizations as small as very small companies or larger companies to automate their processes. So their workflows are automated. They have a much more usage of digital products to save time in their day, right?
Right. So I help them define the processes and workflows, and then we find the right tools that we can automate. And there are quite a few. So the larger the digital stack, the easier it is to automate the processes and just save them a lot of time.
Yes. And we see from our perspective, in this podcast with Product for Product, how many tools are there and how hard it's sometimes to choose those tools. So this is where you're coming also with your background and expertise in actually looking for these different products and compare them. And I even sometimes send you a message on LinkedIn saying, do you know this product? Have you tried it? And usually you know it. So
yeah, the list is ever growing, and I try and test out between work because that's it's part of work. But if I do that, I could do that all day, just testing.
Absolutely. That's a lot of the reason why we started this show is because I'm coming from a data and analytics background, and I've gotten more and more involved in product. So when I started to research product analytics tools, I'm like, there are a lot of different tools. And then I started to look into communication tools. I've used Jira, Trello, but I started to realize you can never get to the end of the line when it comes to the products that are coming out, and you can never know them all. So that's what really kind of inspired the show. And when I talked to Moshe, he had similar feelings about it. So it's great to have you on the show to talk about these different tools.
Oh, I could talk tools all day.
Yeah.
So tell us first, maybe before the automation selection process, what is your approach to testing different products?
Well, so the first rule of thumb for me is I want a free trial to play with the product. I don't want to read the documentation. I don't want to read their marketing spiel. I'm not interested. Let me touch the product. Let me feel it. Let me see that I can actually, use the workflow that I need in it. And then what I'll usually do is I'll set up a test project for whatever it is I'm testing out. So when I was testing email providers, I had a flow, I had a funnel that I wanted to create. I knew what the funnel was. I wanted to see how each tool was dealing with that funnel. When I do project management tools, again, I have a workflow in my mind and I want to see how I can do it. Now, the beauty of many free trials is that they give you premium options in those first 14 days or 30 days.
Yeah.
So that's why you also have to time your testing, right? You have to time it when you have those 14 days or 30 days because you want to take advantage of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put in a workflow and then I'll see if it matches what my needs are. So if I know that it's A, B, C, D, then I want to know, does it do that? And one of the first things I check when I log on to any product is I go to their integrations page. I want to know where it's integrating. If it can integrate with Zapier or if it has its own API, then okay. Then
That's
we're
a
talking.
great point. That's a really good point.
Right. So it's already out of the box, or at least there is an ability to do that rather than getting stuck with something that don't have that.
Siloed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have some accounting clients and they were using tools that just have zero integrations. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's on their roadmap, but we can't do anything. We're stuck. Yeah. We're locked in, right? Like you said, it's siloed, right? We're locked in. We can't do anything. So why would I recommend a tool like that?
And what happens if you have a product that don't have the premium or don't give you the full 100% of their functionality? They only give you part of it in that period of time.
I'll split the answer to two. There was one company that wanted my email and a credit card in order to give me a free trial. And I mean, I'm happy to give my email, but I'm not giving my credit card.
No, the credit card point. Yeah, the credit card part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not giving my credit card. And also I read that cancellation was very difficult with them. It wasn't just a button. You had to talk with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even test it. I didn't bother. That's off my list. I mean,
so it's their loss.
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
So listen out, all of companies out there that are doing that.
Don't ask for that.
Well, I've been on the other end of that, where we were actually in a place where I worked before. We were actually contemplating something like that because, you know, we wanted to see that they're serious about it. So if they're serious about it, they will give us their credit card. And then if they like the product, then eventually it's only a click of a button to approve it or to, you know, opt in to continue with the license. From the consumer perspective, I do understand where you're coming from. And because I'm a consumer myself for other products, and I do prefer to have easy registration, no personal information other than maybe my name, but not like credit card information. And then if I opt in, I will give you a credit card if your product is really good.
Yeah, it's almost like an opt-out format. You know, if you're already giving your credit card, you're already opting into it in some degree. I've used products as well. Like I've used Figma and Airtable recently, and I don't have to give that information over. And I haven't been diligent enough to use those premium features that they've given me. But if I had to give them a credit card, you know, and then had to actually take action to get out of it, you know, that would be that's a bad user experience.
Yeah, but it's still out there, and I always put a reminder in my calendar to opt out, and then I either forget about it, and then they get another month of my money and whatever.
But you know what? But you know, some of these are actually great, and they give you a good user experience. I think Intercom was one of those where they give you a reminder, and they say in advance, "Don't worry, we'll remind you a few days before, so that you won't have to remember." So if I know that, if they're giving me that kind of user experience before I sign up for my free trial, there's more of a likelihood that I will give you my credit card because you're going to remind me.
Yeah. Now, you said there was a second type of company like that?
Right. So the second type of company, they don't give you all of the features. That was what you asked. And so if they're not giving me all of the features, I will try with what I have, and I will read up a lot in community forums and stuff like that and see how people respond. And I'll also check my integration tools. And a lot of times the integration tools give you a hint as to what you can do with the tool, with the software app. So if I know that a product has like Zapier integration, and I'll go over to Zapier and I'll see, okay, let's integrate to that tool and see what options they're giving me. I'm like, oh, cool, they can do this and this and this, even though I don't have access to it. But honestly, I really like the freemium type product where they're giving you free access, even if they're not giving you full service, because you get the idea.
Yeah, they don't hide anything, and here is the full product, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't, but that's still fair enough.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So after you looked into these products, do you also put a bit of a comparison between them? Because I find it, when I do type of looking into different products, I always have this large spreadsheet with all the different features and what I found in each one of them and which one will have what, and then the pricing and all of that stuff. And it's a bit of work to do that, but it helps me make my decision at the end of the day.
So I'm working on a spreadsheet like that I'm going to be sharing with my user base in one way or another. I haven't decided how to share it yet, but that's something that I am working on. there are questions that I ask. Like I said, I always go through the same workflow. So I know what I like and what I don't like. One of the first things that I did when I started my business was compare email service providers. So I compared them by price, but I also compared them by how they count their contacts, and I compared them by the designer. And like I had a lot of settings, like a lot of things that I was comparing, because people at the end of the day, they want to know. And actually, one of my clients once said to me, when you put together that spreadsheet, write customer service. Do they have online customer service? Do they have phone customer service? Is it just email? Is it just chat? Because that's something people really want to know. What kind of customer service you have?
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's not just about the product. It's also about the other services around it. And also what people are saying out there in this day and age. Everyone have references or non-references or crowdsourcing of these references, etc.
There's one great tool that a lot of companies have, and that's a big green check mark in my book. And that is that they have a forum, not just a community forum, but they have a forum for requests, and they interact with that forum. So
like a features request.
Yeah, right. So like a features request. So I know that I had a request, my favorite ESP is ActiveCampaign. So I know they have a forum like that. And I've had requests that have been approved because they were uploaded and people wanted them. And now they're a feature on ActiveCampaign. I'm like, yay.
Yeah, that is actually a really good point. When I used products in the past and I requested something and then I saw it implemented, it made me love the product so much better and the company so much better.
Right.
So looking for that in advance, that's a really good point. Excellent. Any other tips for comparing products before we move on into the automation of workflows?
Yeah. So one last thing, and this actually ties into the automation, is that the tools need to speak to each other. So I mentioned integrations, but some have native integrations and some have third-party integrations. So a native integration is when the two tools speak to each other directly, and third-party is when you need some sort of integration tool in between, right? So like, well, I use Zapier, but like a buckle in between to put together the two pieces. And native integrations are great, but a lot of times they're a lot more limited than third-party integrations. So that's just something that I look into. Then again, having an API, if they have an API and I can do integrations wherever I want, yes, it requires a little bit of coding, but it's like, that's icing on my cake.
Yeah, it also depends on the level of technical savviness or resources that you have in your organization, whether you want to put developers to create something like that, or you want to have as much as possible things coming out of the box.
Right.
And sometimes there is also like a community resource of tools or integrations. So it's not coming from the provider, but it's coming from the community.
And those are great.
Yes,
those
exactly.
Are cool. I love those. Unbounce has that. They have a great community. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it shows a few things. It shows that they support their community. It shows the community support them and are really involved in that. And they open up their platform to support something like that. And in many cases, they will also host the community, so the community doesn't have to find a different place to create those integrations. It's all under the same roof, which is also very helpful.
Sounds like a lot. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to say, it sounds a lot like these companies have really embraced kind of the open source movement when it comes to community and people, independent developers and kind of community feedback and stuff like that. So that's interesting. These enterprises have kind of taken that mantra.
I think it's amazing because a lot of times what you'll find in that open source is you'll find some hack and then somewhere down the road, they've added it to their roadmap and it's become a feature, but it started from within the community. So companies that embrace that, they're actually helping their own growth and they're finding the path. There's this great story in the university. I don't remember which university it was, but this architect built 2 buildings. And there was no path between them. And the university said to him, well, what about, a bridge or a path or whatever? He goes, put some grass down. And in a year's time, I want to see where there's no grass.
Right.
And that's where we build a path. So that's what they're doing when they open that open source to the community.
I think it's based on some Japanese method. I don't remember the name now, but I read something similar like that coming from Japan, where they want to see the least resistance for something to happen. And then they will do it based on that.
I like that. Least resistance.
Yeah. Okay, great. So then the second thing is about workflows and automations, and you're talking a lot about how products are talking between them, etc. Our audience for the podcast, our listeners, many of them are product managers and they're using product management tools. But of course, we're not limiting. Everyone can listen to this, and we welcome everyone. What type of automation are you usually looking at? Let's start with that.
Well, that's a wide question. It really depends. Once again, I'm going to split this answer into two. So the first part is the workflow automations, and the second part is the KPI automations, metrics. The first part is when we're checking how we can automate the workflow itself. So in an onboarding process or within the process itself, moving from one step to another, sending out notifications, sending out updates. For developers, one of the native integrations that I really love, for example, is between Jira and Bitbucket, where when you upload to a different branch, it automatically uploads what was in the update. So when you get out a new version, it's taking the notes from that task and putting it into the Bitbucket notes release notes. Mm-hmm. So that's a native integration, like it's an automated process once you release a version. Mm-hmm. So I find that very cool. Sorry, for lack of a better word. But those are like internal processes and native integrations. And I mean, you can do certain things like that with third-party tools as well, sending out notifications to everybody who needs to know. It really depends on your tool set. But the second kind of automations that I like is everything that has to do with metrics and KPIs. If you know when you're developing a product what you're going to be measuring at the end, it's a lot easier to set up your workflow, your automations, and based on that, choose what tools you want to use. If you don't know, then you're sort of like out in the dark. So we don't know what we're going to measure. Let's just develop it and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. But then I can't set up anything. I don't know where we're going.
Mm-hmm. So can you give me an example of such type of KPI automation? That's really interesting because as product managers, we always deal with success criteria and KPIs and leading indicators. So just an example from something you've done in the past, that would be great.
So I'm thinking something that's more relevant to product because recently I've done something that was very cool, which is actually sales marketing KPIs. And that was the process of how many phone calls it takes before I actually get the sale and what is the time between the calls and a lot of other metrics that we were just pulling them in from the scheduling app and we were pulling it into a dashboard that had it was just a Google sheet, like a spreadsheet, but it had a lot of back end stuff going on, a lot of development in the back end. And we were getting these great metrics. But in a product development environment, I mean, again, a lot of these reports are built in, for example, within Jira, but if you're not using Jira or using a tool that doesn't have that, the whole how long feature requests have been in the system, how long it took to develop a certain thing, how many hours of work it was. And from the first day that I wrote that story and put up different tasks within it until I have that product or the feature in dev mode that I can actually start testing for initial product testing. How long does it take? How many people were involved? What the time frame was? Are we on time? Are we not on time? Who is the weak link? Who is the strong link? There are a lot of questions, but again, it really depends on what you're measuring.
One cool automation that related more to the first type that you mentioned, not the KPI, but the process itself. We automated Salesforce with Panda and the application that we were selling to tell people when their subscription is going to end. So we had that information on Salesforce, not in the application itself, but we had an integration. Panda provided an integration between Salesforce and Panda. And then we were able to basically get that information into Panda and then using that specific information for segmentation to show a message to the users that were fitting that segmentation that their subscription is ending in 2 months, in a month, and they have to contact their account manager, etc. So that was a very simple type of integration that really helped automate this type of reminders so we don't have to chase them afterwards.
Right. That's actually a native integration. That's great. Now imagine you have all this data in an SQL database because you've built a proprietary site and you want to tell your users your account is going, your subscription is ending. and you want to do it with your bot, let's say with Intercom. So once again, Zapier to the rescue, because you pull the data, you write a very simple SQL query. Depending on how your database is structured, you can also maybe do it even without coding. And then that sends a tag to Intercom, which pops up a message or sends an email or an email or whatever, and they get that notification. So yeah, if you're doing automations and integrations that are cutting down on subscriptions just expiring or auto renewing, what we were talking about before, like we want to know, I want to know when you're going to be asking me to pay again. So even just telling them, your credit card will be charged again in X number of days.
Right.
That enhances the user experience so much, and it shows transparency. And I'm not taking your money because I can. I'm taking it because you want to give it to me. And if you don't, then here, opt out.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is this: these days, developers don't need to build all of that because there are tools that can provide all the different aspects and then integration between them. So it really makes our life as product managers much easier because we really want our developers to focus on the core product that our company is building rather than on everything around it.
Sounds like Zapier is a really good third-party product that integrates so well with so many different things.
Definitely.
Oh, it really does. And I just want to tell you with full integration that they do. They integrate with hardware as well. So you can have, it's a special light. I don't remember what it is. No, it's not a Philips light. I don't remember. It's a special light, and it integrates with Zapier. It has an app. So I'm guessing it also probably something like Alexa or whatever, like a smart app. And you can have it so that 5 minutes before a meeting, the lights will blink. So that the whole room changes. And so again, it's how do we use the integrations that are available to us to improve our workflow? If I need to look at my calendar or wait for a pop-up, I'm not focusing on the task that I'm working on. But if I know my lights are going to blink, then I'm just focusing on my work.
Yes.
And I'm getting the best productivity out of my team, which is great. Mind you, I was in a meeting once and somebody turned out the lights and I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
So
Seamless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From your experience with automation, I mean, obviously process improvement, process workflow improvement, it can be really messy. And in my experience with it, getting people to adapt to it and adopt it into their workflow requires a level of trust and understanding. Okay, I'm passing this stuff over to a bot to perform this work that I used to do. So what is your experience when it comes to getting people comfortable with automation around a product or a process? And how do you approach that kind of empathetic approach to it?
I love this question. I have to say, this is because it's so real. We're humans and we're not giving over control to a bot. I mean, seriously. And it's as simple as, even a simple email nurture sequence or reminder for a webinar or something like that, it's a no-brainer, right? It'll send out the email 1 day before, an hour before, 5 minutes before, 1 day after, right? Simple, easy peasy. It's not. And you're right. People need to build trust with their tools. And I had a client she would go in and she would change things 2 seconds before it was supposed to go out. And it broke. A lot of times it broke. And I mean, she knew that she was breaking it. She knew that she wasn't building the trust she needed to. But when we did manage to do a smaller sequence, so we didn't go all out at first, we started something small and she saw that it was working and it was helping. And then we built it to a bigger sequence and we moved forward and we built from there. So trust takes time, just like it does with humans. I think even more so with bots and automations. But I'm sorry, once you go bot, you can't go back. I mean, it's just like
a t-shirt.
Yeah,
it's almost the way you describe it is almost trust needs to be treated like a product. That you build a trust as you build a product.
Absolutely.
You start small, you build on it. Yeah.
It's an iterative approach. I mean, as you do it, as you let it go do these things, it's going to bring back positive feedback. Okay, it actually accomplished what I wanted. Let me go and do these other things and build upon it. So it's a very iterative approach when it comes to automation. Getting people comfortable with these things. When they've been doing things for so long, a lot of people I work with are on Excel and they love Excel. And, it's like Excel is great, but Excel isn't the be all end all. And if you can automate this stuff and not do Excel, why not?
Well, Excel is like, that's my one Microsoft vice. Like, I love my Excel.
There we go. It
There's
is.
still
No, seriously, you're right. You're right. It should be automated, and I'm moving over to automations with Google Sheets more so because it's online and it's easier than doing it with Excel, which their online OneDrive sucks. But definitely you can stay within Excel and still automate processes. You should just know that it like a spreadsheet is an interim place for the automation. Like it's where you can dump your stuff and then pull it out again so that you have control and you can manipulate it. But it's not the end all.
Yeah.
You can see also that companies like Airtable or Monday.com, they, I think, started from that Excel is not enough, or people love Excel. Let's see how we can make it much better.
Right, right. And they remind you of Excel, like in their structure, their sort of base spreadsheet, even Monday.
Yeah, they even have their ad. Yeah, their ad is like they put Excel next to Monday and see look how pretty this is, much more than that. So. Going back to something you said before about Zapier, we're not promoting any product over here, but it seems like Zapier is like kind of the Rolls Royce of automation these days, or maybe there is other tools like that.
Yeah, so there's Integromat and Zoho Flow. Anybody who's using Zoho for the development should be using Zoho Flow. I mean, it's great. It's a great tool. It's actually a bit stronger in certain aspects than Zapier, though I like it less. And there's Segment.io, and there are a few out there. But
I used another one for a while, and I'm not going to mention its name because I didn't really like it so much. So I don't want to mention its name. It had a good potential. It reminded me of Zap a bit, but they had a few problems that they just couldn't resolve. So I decided to stop using it. Matt, do you have any other questions for Irit before we wrap up?
In terms of data and analytics, I know you mentioned the KPI automation. I'm big on that, automating KPIs, automating analytics with any of your customers as a founder of a company, working with small business. I'm also a founder recently, and it's nice to talk with another founder of a company. So I just wanted to get your feedback when it comes to working with clients about data and analytics, automation. They all kind of do go in hand. You have to have data at the center of a lot of this. Do you have any experience with your clients around this stuff?
So when I was working as a product owner, my favorite analytics tool, and don't hate me, I didn't test all of them, but I really liked Analytics Canvas. I really enjoyed working with it. It was old-fashioned blocks, like reminds you of Windows from way back in the 1980s, but it really gave me great analytics. But my clients, where I was working then, and then my clients today, not all of them understand the importance of having KPIs in advance and knowing what you're measuring. Yes. And those that do are not big enough at the moment, at least because I work with small businesses mostly. So the small businesses are not aware enough that they need the KPIs. And the bigger businesses that I do KPIs with, I've actually done, like I said, a lot of Excel manipulation or Google Sheet manipulation. And that's good enough for where they are right now. I've done Google tracking and analytics from Google and whatever, but you really need to know what you're looking for. And small businesses, they're not sure. I don't think they're aware that they're aware enough that they need that, and they don't know what they're looking for yet because they're too small.
It's an interesting conundrum, I guess. Yeah. Okay, great. I think we can wrap it up. This was really a pleasure having you, Irit, and I feel like probably in the future you're going to come again because there is still a lot of stuff we can talk with you.
Yes,
I'd love to be here again. It was fun,
especially for specific products that we might cover that are really directed in your area. I didn't even realize that you were a product owner before, so you know what where we're coming from and what we're talking about. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun, and I think you guys are doing great work. And a lot of people are getting into product without realizing that they're getting there. Like it sort of grows on them, and then they need to find what tools to use and how to work with them. So what you guys are doing is really important.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I usually say the tools don't make the work; it's the people that make the work. But at the end of the day, tools do help. So it's definitely eventually
they help accomplish the task. For sure.
It definitely
simplify your workflow, but you need to define the workflow to find the right tool for you and not suit your workflow to find the tool that you're using.
Yeah, I've seen people in the past that thought that this tool or that tool is going to really help them, but eventually when they got the tool, it still didn't help them because they didn't know what they were doing. So it's definitely, you first have to know what the job is all about and what you need to do, and only then to automate it with the right tools.
Irit, it really has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining the show. Is there anywhere that people can reach you best?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and I have my website, which is complicated to say, but really easy to find. It's day-by-day.biz. And the truth is, if people want to learn more about simplifying their workflow, I have an email sequence that's just packed full of tips and tricks and hacks. And
excellent.
Cool. I got a feeling I'll be checking that out.
Definitely.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining the show. And until next time, this is Matt and Moshe signing off.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Irit. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.